mission trips, by the way.
Okay, well, we might have to have a whole other session on
Yeah.
on just the mission trips because there's so many stories there.
Yeah, there's 17 of those.
You went on 17 mission trips all around the world. Did you have a favorite place before we get back to the cabin?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so.
I have so many memories at the cabin, and the cabin's gone through so many different evolutions over the years, thanks in part to Paul and a lot of help from...
Yeah, Paul's done a lot with it.
Yeah.
It's never been better.
It does look pretty fantastic. What do you think is so special about that place?
Well, but because there's no one around, we don't see anybody else all day long. Whereas Uncle Doug and Danelle down southwest corner of Missouri, if they're fishing in a cove and they're ready to get out into the main stream of the stream, main channel of the stream, they have to turn around, make sure there are no boats behind them. They're that crowded down there. Entirely different. We could go a whole trip and never see anybody else.
Well, I have some great memories out there just over the years. I feel like I grew up just having that advantage of being out there in the wilderness with no one and swimming in Castor River and seeing it in the different seasons and stuff.
Yep.
That was really special for me. And now to take my kids there too is pretty neat. What do you think's the secret to 69 years of marriage?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Treating her as a spouse, as a loving spouse.
How do you think you've stayed so sharp and healthy and...
Oh, I don't know.
You know?
I have no secrets.
Well, the music and...
Yeah, keeping occupied.
You're volunteering and you're always... You have such a knack for remembering facts. How... Have you always had just a good memory like that?
I guess so.
I mean, you can go to a museum and come out with, you know, a whole presentation.
I got to go back to the Museum of Man here in San Diego, but I want Father to ask them when they're going to have a tour, which features, that's their feature in that building. If you've been in there, you've seen those big stelae, those big stones, Maya age, that have the glyphs on them. And it was found by United Fruit when they put in the railway to connect the east and west coast to have an outlet for bananas to the west. But what is missing in my knowledge is this story, got a hummingbird.
Oh, nice.
This, I'm missing the facts on what happened to the government at that time and United Fruit because they got in bad standing. And I think that's why we don't see the name United Fruit anymore. We see Chiquita, you know.
Interesting. Well, you're always piecing the puzzle together, I feel like. What advice would you want to give to your kids, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, or like legacy message? Anything in particular?
No, I think family and church is important. I think it's very important, the two.
Yeah. You have a lot of love for your family.
Oh, yeah.
Anything stand out in that regard? Is there something you most cherish about your kids?
Well, I try not to be partial to anyone. Try to be equal to everybody in every condition. Other than treating everybody equally, I don't know of any exceptions.
Are you proud of your kids?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we got a good family.
Is there something that makes you smile when you think about your kids, or something in particular that you think stands out?
Well, I think when the girls went to Libya and when we all went to Guatemala, I think that was important.
Yeah.
I think that the Guatemalan thing really influenced him later in life, of course, no question about that.
What's it?
Did you know Paul spent a year on Trinidad?
You know what? I think I did a report on that when I was in elementary school, because I think that's when he was there, was when I was a little girl.
We went down at Christmas time.
What's it like having great-grandchildren?
Oh, it's just like having a new family again.
And is it amazing to look around and, you know, you talked about it a little bit, the evolution of cars or technology or even dental equipment or things.
Yeah, dentistry, but it's really changed.
When you look around at all of that, does it just blow your mind to know that you've seen that progression?
Yeah, I think the Borden Air handpiece was the greatest advancement of all. Mm-hmm. And some of the advancements are being, at least two are being ruined by advertising and pushing them too hard. And one is implants, and the other the bonding and implants, I think, are being pushed too hard by the providers. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that at all.
What do you think's your biggest accomplishment?
In dentistry?
Or just in general, like your life's work?
Oh, I don't know. Having the family. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it must be really satisfying to look around and see the success that each of your children have had and their families, and that they're thriving and in good health. And you've always been a good proponent of diet and exercise, right?
Right.
Any tips there?
Uh-huh. Oh, any tips there? Well, I think medicine should be used and taken when properly prescribed, and that I'm happy to see that physicians are careful in not over-prescribing as much now, and opioids are class 2 materials, because I was always opposed to that. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, the over-advertising by the dentist in bonding, they're putting in bonding where there should be amalgams or metal. Mm-hmm. They're a shorter life, more expensive, all for just not to see those amalgam spots.
Is there anything that you think the next generation needs to know, or that you're concerned about going forward?
Well, I worry about all the people that I assume are having implants, that I surely would be careful and not be careless. I'm afraid that people get careless with their natural teeth for thinking that it's just so wonderful to be going the other way. Mm-hmm. And I know it's not the right thing. Mm-hmm. I put in a lot of implants all through the history of them, but I lost most of them.
Do you have any even thought of how many different mouths you've worked on over the years? Like, no. Probably thousands, right?
No, when my physician and I were both living, we had an interesting comparison, because he used the numerical method and I used the alphabetical. So we did have a good comparison in those days. My physician had started in actual practice the same time I did. His widow's still living, by the way, and but he was disappointing in the fact that he smoked long after it was pretty much established that he shouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel good at 95?
Oh, I haven't had anything for pain in years. I haven't had a headache in years.
And do you sleep well?
Oh yeah, but I'm sleeping. I'm napping too much, I know. And I was awake a little bit last night. I shouldn't take naps as long as I do, but I like to do it.
Me too.
It's kind of bad to interfere with something you really like.
But you've always been really good about hard work and self-discipline.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that was just something you learned as a youngster, or is that something you've worked hard to do? I mean, your value of hard work, your value of self-discipline.
I think I always did. Yeah, I always did.
Mm-hmm. Well, is there anything else? I mean, I think that the other things would probably be some of the travel adventures, right?
Some of the travel, on the 17 trips, there's some interesting stories. I should have the years in front of me when I mention it, but I can't do it here, of course.
Is there one I mean, you've given me several highlights, but is there one that you haven't told me about that really stands out?
Well, Hong Kong. I really enjoyed Hong Kong. I worked a month in Hong Kong. An interesting thing, on my last day of work, I hadn't seen anybody I knew. I had heard that there was a couple working at the thrift shop for some agency. I don't know what the agency was. They were from Missouri. But other than that, until I sat down at breakfast at the McDonald's at the Star Ferry, Hong Kong, who should walk in but the former dean of education at Southeast Missouri State University. And his first name was Dean Loftus. And he had been working in Manchuria and had been teaching, I don't know what subject, something about Americanism, I guess. But actually, he was a very religious man. He didn't recognize me. And he and his wife sat right across from me, and I told him who I was. And then he knew.
What a small world. Do you feel like you've had some of those small world moments where you're around the globe, but then all of a sudden you realize that, you know, people are the same or things aren't so different even when you're so far away? Has it made the world smaller, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
I haven't found anybody similar to anybody I knew back home. Had an interesting pair of volunteers for Rotary, and I still write to the widow of one in Wisconsin. And he had surely been a worker. He established 2 of the Rotary clinics, one in Kenya and one in can't think of it right now. Guatemala, yeah. And then a British past district governor. In the early days, Rotary could find dentists by checking on the district governor's background. And they were most all district governors because they could locate them easily in their files, you see. They didn't have me because I was a peon, but they knew the district governors who were dentists. And this one district governor from England, who later on visited us at home, and he and his wife were guests of ours, and he had given a year and a half to the refugee program when I first met him in the Philippines. A past district governor who became a Rotary International officer and employee at Evanston, once told me, he said, now you're going to the Philippines, and he says, I have a exchange student, high school, Marla somebody was her name, a Filipino, and she'll be working at this refugee program. So not only was she working there, but she lived right across the street in her work. She didn't live there, I lived there, but she worked across the street. And she would bring me mangoes and things like that. And he became a well-liked speaker for Rotary. And we had him a couple of times for important events, for anniversaries of clubs and so on. One anniversary, 75th for our club.
Wow. And there at the chateau where you're living in Cape Girardeau, you hold the record now for being basically the most fit resident, right?
Well, I don't know, but I've got a couple of records like the farthest distance in a certain amount of time. And then I also do 60, and nobody comes near that on all the forms of exercise. As the most notable one is getting up from a chair and standing up 60 times. I don't do it in a row. I do 10 of those, and then I do this sort of thing. Legs up 60 times, and then I do toes up and standing up, toes and heels up, and then in the back putting leg out the side, the other leg out the side.
You're still playing the piano, still playing the organ, still playing the trombone.
Yeah.
Still writing people around the world.
Yeah.
Still flying on your own at 95. That's incredible.
Yeah, we have leg bends too. That's one of the other exercises. You don't do anything to arms. I guess it's dependent on what my complaints were, and my complaint has always been the knees and the hips, because I don't have artificial there. I got two shoulders, two artificial shoulders, and I've had a foot operation, which I don't encourage. I can't walk downhill very well. I can walk uphill, and it's hard for playing organ. I have to put my foot on the side, but it doesn't affect my driving. I can express plenty of pressure with the brakes.
Well, you have an incredible recall, Grandpappy. I mean, do you remember all the girls getting married over the years and all the weddings and all those milestones and stuff? The turtles, Grand Mimi's
alligator.
Turtles. And tell me about the alligator.
Well, my cousin, one of my first cousins on my mother's side was Helen Bridgman, and she was a teacher and a yearbook specialist, and she had the largest yearbook in the state of Missouri at Hazelwood High School, which is North St. Louis. And Helen had been to Florida on a vacation, and she and somewhat of a boyfriend down there picked up a 12-inch alligator to be shipped home in a 12-inch box. That means that poor alligator couldn't turn around. It was terrible the way they did to those alligators, but they lived through it. And I got him fine, and he went, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet. And I finally went, when I left in service in 42, that he was in the basement of the science building under the care of the biology teacher, who later became head of science.
And what do you feed an alligator in the basement?
Well, you feed him minnows. They'd love to catch minnows. And fish, and pieces of fish. When he was little, of course, smaller pieces of food, of everything. And so the Navy V-12 was in effect for a year, and the Army ASTP, Army Specialized Training Program. That's where I was in dental school for a year before I took a leave and then went back to dental school later, see. Anyway, I was the only one in the class that did that. So the alligator was in the basement, and they could lean over and get him out and frighten the girls and so on. And so the head of biology said, "We got to get rid of it." He said, "I think I can send it to some biological supply company who will clean it and provide the skeleton for science. And I said, that's all right. And I don't know if he ever did or not, because I had no way of checking up on it.
Wow. So what ended up happening to the alligator?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I assume he said it.
Okay.
Funny thing, he was a member of Disciples of Christ Christian Church, and yet he was one of the greatest proponents of Chateau Girardeau, where I live, that was started by the Presbyterian Church. Homer Boland was his name. He's one of my 3 great educators. Another one was the head of the science department at the Teachers College, later to become a university. His name was A.C. McGill. He had an interesting public service program that he tested the water of communities free, or individual wells or cisterns, because his family had had typhoid. And he just thought it was an important thing that he could do for his family, and he did that. So the chemistry and the biology teachers, and then when I got to dental school, the physiology teacher, who strangely enough, nobody in the class liked at the beginning. And later on, they thought he was the greatest.
Funny how that
He
happens.
did both medical and dental schools at St. Louis U. And I have no idea what his name was anymore either.
Well, Grandpappy, my battery is running low at this
I guess
point.
so.
But I think we got at least a good chunk of history on our video.
I guess
and
so.
I know that we are all amazed by your wealth of knowledge, and your life experiences and travels are just so inspirational. And you should know how much your family loves you.
Well, I understand.
We're grateful for you and how well you're doing at 95. I mean, I hope we can celebrate with this video in another several years, and we'll update it with.
I'm really healthier than I was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. All right. Any other messages? Sort of a final message?
No, thanks to the family and church.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. That is great. Thank you very much. We love you.